Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video my mom is making a beautiful Nebula resin table. She first tried to make a resin galaxy but wasn't happy with how it turned out. A great thing about resin is if you're not happy with one layer, you can just do another layer of resin on top of it and start all over. In this video, she'll be using art resin. Art resin is a 1-to-1 ratio by volume, so it's very easy to mix. She pours the part A into one cup and an equal amount of the part B into another cup, then pours those two into a larger cup and mixes together well. I'll have art resin linked in my description if you want to give them a try. We like to mix our resin for around 3 to 5 minutes or until you can no longer see any streaks in the resin. Once that's mixed in well, she separates some into another cup. Now she'll be adding in some of Artline's black pigment paste. She gives it a good mix in the container before adding some into her cup of resin. And she mixes that in well. You want to add a generous amount of the pigment paste to make sure that it's opaque. Then she places her cup into Resiner's bubble removal machine, and this is the easiest way to remove air bubbles in your resin. It works like a vacuum and suctions up all of the air bubbles to the top of the cup where they pop on their own. It takes a couple of minutes, and in the meantime she's getting her other supplies ready. This is DuPont's 3D holographic silver plate flakes, and look how cool they are. And we have DuPont's 3D opal flakes as well. The rest is some iridescent flakes and some different colored glitter. In this layer, she'll be pouring in her black pigmented resin and adding a variety of glitters. She's working into a tabletop that has a lifted edge, and this is really perfect to pour in your resin. And to protect that lifted edge, she's going to be covering it with some painter's tape. This is just so that no drops of resin will drip and harden onto that table while she's pouring. She goes over it one more time to ensure that it's fully covered. Now her resin is ready, and sometimes you'll just have a few bubbles sitting on top of the cup, and those can be easily popped with a torch gun. And then you don't have to worry about any more bubbles. Now she can pour her resin into the table. She uses a silicone mixing stick to help spread out the resin, make sure that it's covering the whole area and that it's reached the very edge. This only needs to be a thin layer, enough to cover that first layer that we want to hide. Since it is a thin layer, to help the resin reach the edge, she's picking up that tabletop and slightly tilting it. Then she takes this blue glitter spray paint by Duplicolor and sprays it onto the resin. And after this, she'll be doing one more layer followed by a top coat. Next, she'll be adding in some large iridescent flakes. Black resin is very reflective like a mirror, so while my mom is working on this table, you can actually see her in some clips, and you can also see that she's wearing her full face respirator mask. Always make sure to wear a respirator mask while working with resin to protect yourself from any harmful fumes. Followed by DuPont's glitter flakes. This part you can have a lot of fun with, and she's adding in a variety of different sized, shaped, and colored glitter that we showed previously. She adds in some fine glitter as well in white and blue. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by leaving a thumbs up or your thoughts in a comment below. And as always, I'll have all of the products that you see in this video listed in my description if you're interested in giving this tutorial a try. She allows this layer to harden and comes back the next day to do another layer. In the meantime, she was working on some other resin projects on this surface, so before she brings her table back, she's doing a quick cleanup, and we always love to use baking paper to protect our work table, and this is because once the resin has hardened onto the baking paper, it's so easy to remove. She's using a mixing stick and is just scraping off any drips of resin. And here is our table and our respirator mask. I also want to note that she is also wearing nitrile gloves. She mixes in her resin once more, and again she's using art resin, so she mixes in equal parts of the A and B and pours that into a larger cup to mix together. Art resin is a great choice for tabletops and coasters because it has a nice hard finish. This layer is also quite fun because you get to work with a lot of fun colors. She'll be using mica powders, and these are mica powders from Resin Pro. After her resin is mixed in, she separates it into smaller cups to add in those pigments. She chose a combination of bright orange, pink, green, and blues. Then she goes ahead and pours her clear resin onto the tabletop. Again, using her silicone mixing stick to help spread out the resin. She'll be pouring more resin onto the tabletop with her pigmented resins, so the amount of clear resin that she uses now doesn't need to be too much, but just enough to cover the surface. She will be using a white pigment along with her mica powders, and this is Casting Crafts White. She adds a few drops and mixes that in. Next, she mixes in all of her mica powders. This pink mica powder was quite difficult to open. It seems like the lid has been sealed shut, probably with a drop or two of resin, but to fix that, she's just going over the lid with a heat gun, and the heat will soften the resin and make it a lot easier to open. While you're adding your mica powders into your resin, those tiny particles go flying into the air and you can breathe them in, and they can be harmful for your lungs, so that's another reason why you always want to be wearing a mask. Once we have all of our pigmented resins ready, she takes her white pigmented resin and pours it across the tabletop. Then goes in with her different pigmented resins and is pouring them on top of the white pigmented resin in different sections. Then, using a heat gun, she blows them out to create a nebula effect. Once this layer has hardened, she did one more layer of clear resin as a top coat, and this is just to have a nice and smooth finish without any imperfections such as dust particles or fibers into the resin. And here's the final product. It seems like Remy likes the table too. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.